through was horrifying. It was horrifying. And it seemed like it is far worse than any death could ever be. Okay.
It's almost like the terror of a potential second death that is just so beyond.
Being conscious of the second death. It's being conscious
Yeah.
of that. Like death is like a beautiful, beautiful gift compared to the energy of this.
Wow.
Because when you're feeling it and you're conscious of it, because you're conscious and you have your spirit, it's like trying to take you over. Now, I'm not saying that its nature is like, it's not a sociopathic, malevolent, because that means in order for something to be sociopathic, malevolent, it has a consciousness that it in some ways deciding to be that. This doesn't have a decision. It just is what it is. And in and of itself, it isn't like I want to explain, like, it just is what it is. It doesn't know and can't be anything else. It's just doing what it's doing by nature of its own survival. This is how it survives. It takes over.
Does it take a form or an archetypal form of like the Leviathan, or do you think it's the Leviathan, or is that something completely different?
I think it's associated and connected to the metal god, and I think it can take any form it wants, but it really fuses with metal and the organic substance of creation all combined into one. Like the oil of life, like it's the counterfeit oil of life. It's the anti-verse version of the oil of life.
Wow.
So it just through absorption, it tries to take over. Now, I know somehow I didn't die and I didn't have blood in my body. Like there was no blood in my body. It just seemed impossible that I would have not died, because what was in my body was that thick as molasses, pure oil, black goo. That's what was in my body. And they couldn't use a needle because it was so thick. It literally like gooped. They had to cut the vein, and it had gooped out slowly. Like it was just like, thick, and it just they had to scoop it.
Well, it must have been put in you through some kind of abduction that happened like, right before or something, or developed over time from the previous abduction that happened around that same time.
I think it was developing over time, and interestingly,
growing and replacing itself in the bone marrow or something.
Happening, I had an implant removed from the abduction that I had in Spain from the police. They used a medical kit and they removed an implant from my shin, which was what I was saying, the substance of this.
With a meteorite type,
So that was prior to my experience of the alien black blood. I had that implant removed. And then shortly after, the symptoms became, the symptoms were horrifying.
That's really amazing.
And I have to just say that I was in a fight for my spirit, not just my life.
Yeah.
I was fighting for my spirit. Like I was actually fighting something on such a grand scale.
Oh, that's really terrifying. Yeah.
My spirit intact, and to keep this thing from whatever it was trying to do. And it was a completely separate consciousness. It was not me. Okay. And it was powerful, and I could feel and sense that it can take over technology. It can take over everything.
Well, that's a good observation.
Because it can take over. So
this is part of the concerns, I think, that others don't realize, maybe what's taking over some of AI and technologies, and that's why there's a danger. And a lot of people who are just into the computer programming aspect, they think, all is an algorithm. They just need to program it right, and it shouldn't be a problem. But I think there's something else going on a supernatural level that is infecting and invading. And if most people don't have any kind of defense, then the odds are that, there's definite infection going on.
Absolutely.
On other levels.
Your defense is your spirit. And I just want to be very clear about this, because I was very cognizant of the war I was in and what I was fighting, and how hard it was for me, not just to stay in my body, okay, because this thing wanted to take it, but it wanted to literally take the essence of my spirit and my soul, okay,
Wow.
and basically piggyback on that and become something else. So my spirit, and this is what I want to emphasize, when you know who you are and you stand in that truth and that power is unlimited. That power goes to the very origins of your alpha and omega. Okay? It is literally something that cannot be stolen, cannot be counterfeited, cannot be copied, cannot be taken, and cannot be corrupted. It can't, and it cannot stand against it.
It's good news.
It's only when you don't know and you give in, because
or if you don't remember.
Well, I was just going to get to that, because this realm, the entire realm, is in PTSD. The entire realm is experiencing and living through, and has been living through PTSD ever since the split. So the severity of that PTSD and the horrid experiences of all life here that they have had to endure, okay, all of the terrible things that we've done to one another, and or things that, you know, have happened, it has caused such severe trauma that there was a complicit desire to not want to remember.
That's part of our survival strategy as well.
That's right. So this is also part of the problem in how bad it has become, that people's minds have been swiped and continue to be swiped. Because it's also under the premise of wanting to have given that up because the pain was so bad. Again, we come down again to realizing the pain and not shedding or not shielding yourself from it so that you never realize it, or not numbing yourself out, because throughout lifetimes it has been unbearable.
Yes.
To the state of this entire realm, including Terra. So she herself is in the same state of
shock, basically.
Trauma, shock, PTSD, and just survival.
And I think just learning how to recover from trauma and resolving that and finding real ways of working with that is so important, like strengthening our natural parasympathetic nervous system so that we can recover a sense of calm and safety and inner knowing, even in the midst of the storm, which is pretty hard to do, but I think it's possible, and that's what we try to help others do to recover from that. But sometimes, and I know I've had to take a break from seeing clients so that I could attend to many of my own processes and healing process and projects going on, because some things really threw me for a loop for a long time, and I'm glad I'm alive. And I think we're both miracles, just like there's many others who are unknowns, really, that we're walking miracles who've been targeted over and over again for many forms of death that would have taken, let's say, the normal, but we're still here. And
many brilliant, amazing people whose stories haven't gotten out there. And we are all really quite miraculous. And the more that we're aware of that, and the more that we're aware of our spirit and just the unlimited nature of its eternal supreme power, the more that we can bring and draw that in to the physicality of this. And this physicality will change to reflect that.
Well, I like that idea, and I think that is coming, and that I'm often reminded, just working with clients who've had extreme difficulties and trauma sometimes it's just like a cop working on the streets, and they've been dealing with the drug lords so long that they're jaded, and they feel trauma in and of themselves, So just learning how to recover faith and knowing that we do have this, and we do have a higher beings watching over us and really rooting for us and wanting to work and co-create with us, and that we need to actually have faith that that is present all the time, even though we don't feel it, that there's this great awareness and there's this great love and support rooting for us all the time, and very, very much caring for us and wanting us to know that please have faith.
Yes.
This is real. You are real. You have the power. You can do it. Please know that we are here for you and that you are supported all the time and that you actually have it. And I think faith is really, really important, and that I've had to be reminded of faith and comfort in knowing that don't worry. You know, you are not lost. We are here with you. You are fully here. You know, don't worry.
Yeah, Evie, that's an amazing message, because that is absolutely. And if we think about it, creation itself is love, and love is all about your highest, most beautiful state of being. It is the opposite of harm. It has everything to do with your message of faith.
Yeah.
Because this is a story. This is our story of love. Love and remembrance. It's safe.
Remembrance.
It's safe to remember. It's okay. It's safe to remember. Now that you know who you are, now that you know what you are, now that you know what you have, there is no disconnection. There never was a disconnection. The illusion is that they made you believe there was a disconnection. There never was a disconnection to your spirit. So now that you know that, you can draw that in, and you can alter the physical structure of your matter.
Yeah. And I guess it's the discernment factor of drawing in, like knowing what is real, and then building on the real that is love and faith and awareness, humility, wisdom, compassion, and the knowing the difference between like the ego or the overlay or the false illusions. And you know, that means sometimes not being heard and not getting what you need, and feeling very alone.
Yes.
But you have to build upon that seed of what's real and build from that, and know that that's where we start. We don't start from ego trying to get attention or trying to get website hits or whatever it is. That the real story, and I think the real truth, is often very hidden, and that there are those who know it and who have had many experiences who had to remain silent. And I think that we need to at least speak and acknowledge and thank those who we know who are having very many experiences and who've had to remain silent, or who were too targeted to even get their voice out or even to survive. And many people in the projects who don't like what's going on, but they can't really say anything or do anything, but they really want freedom and goodness for the greater good of all. And I think that there are those who can't really say anything about that.
Yes.
They can't let it be known, but they are wanting for the highest and best good, just like what we want to portray and give hope. Because I don't think it's hopeless.
No, it's not at all. If it was hopeless, we all wouldn't be here, and we all wouldn't be doing what we're doing to change everything. So we need to come together more. We all need to bring our resources together so that we can really create the world that reflects life and living and balance and love, and create it for real. Somehow or other, we need to start connecting.
Yeah, and the connecting is such a, that is a stumbling block amongst many who are aware, and then we find ourselves connecting through technology instead of real life community. Or there's these really aware people who are, let's say, doing YouTube channels or news, and then they go into their communities and they're just frustrated that like 90% of the people are just like totally unaware of what the hell's going on, and they feel like it's so hard to connect. But if we can do this, you know, one friend at a time, one household at a time, one group at a time, that we could really make this work. And we have to have faith that even if it's just that one friend across the country, we've started with something. And even if we're doing it alone, working on our healing work and being silent and needing that space to heal and to build the real, then know that there's others that are unseen in other realms, angels, whatever you want to call it, who are actually there rooting for you and comforting and supporting you every step of the way, and you just don't know it. You're just not aware.
Yeah, because you can't.
So know that you are supported and you are loved, and there's those forces that actually are rooting for us every step of the way.
Exactly.
You know?
And also, the energetic waves that are coming in faster now. I just want to say this because the waves that are causing extreme fluctuations in the sun and the core of the earth also are causing electromagnetic storms of unknown origins, and along with different particles that have never been here before, that haven't even ever been known of. They are increasing. So the time span in between each hit is now decreasing, much like labor.
Labor pains. Yes, I was just thinking of that before the birth, which is
where it's happening.
All these different events you've talked about, but some of the physical symptoms that sometimes they call them ascension symptoms, but sometimes I wonder, because some sensitive people feel things and we wonder, is this our just physical health or something weird going on? Like where you would get these weird, I don't know if you get these weird things like, it's almost as if, I don't even know how to explain it, like something goes in your reality, almost like a dizzy thing, like what the that?
You're shifted out of your body, almost like you're taken out and then you put back in. So everything.
It's like there's a disruption in reality.
Yes, because
and all of a sudden feeling really, really heavy.
Because the symptoms that are happening are very, very powerful, very strong, and they're actually neutralizing a lot of people, and they're making life very difficult to live and to just function normally.
Wow.
So as these waves are increasing in strength, magnitude, and in time, much like labor pains, they are causing dimensional shifting, dimensional reverberations. It's actually, the fact that you're feeling it is actually a good thing, because you are in tune with the various densities that are being affected. And when you're feeling that, that's also happening in you, because as above, so below. Okay, this was happening cosmically, it's happening in us. So that is what is being experienced all the way around.
The earth too.
Yes, the density of the energy that is hitting our DNA on a subatomic level all the way through. If you think about it like an MRI, the impact of the density is so severe. It is causing it's making gravity feel like denser.
Yes.
Like you're being compacted. It's the kind of fatigue. It feels like it's actually so severe that it's a medical fatigue, but it's anything remotely like what a normal fatigue was from the old verse. Okay.
Wow.
Which actually reminds me of the synthetic Mandela effect. So it's causing a greater degree of density in the impact within our cells, and it's modifying us, and we're being accelerated, and it's modifying us so that we can handle the frequencies that are coming in from the verse for what is happening from the real verse, what is happening towards the convergence of the event horizon. So this is all actually upgrading us naturally. It is actually getting us to the point where we can endure the energies that are going to be coming in, that are going to be far more powerful. This is just so these are just the beginning stages.
It's almost like an labor. Yeah, there's like an alchemical reaction that's happening.
It's all alchemical.
And this whole like metagene, we've talked about that before, where sometimes great trauma, actually sometimes it's deliberately done to us in the projects when they know who you are, but they will try to activate the metagene, which activates these supernatural abilities that override physics, I guess. But these waves that are coming, and I think it's more, maybe it's a natural form of trying to activate those things so that we can get out of this entrapment.
This is another form of how we're being helped celestially, is by these energies that are happening, so that we're being modified in the best possible way, in a way that we can endure it and accelerate. And as we accelerate and we become prepared for what's coming, we will also come into being able to access more of our metagenes. So there's going to be a lot of unlocking connected with this, and a lot of new consciousness that's going to continue coming in, that's going to reformat the way we relate to reality and the way that we create it. So all these things are happening simultaneously. It is a help. It is a celestial help, and it's meant to help us.
Yeah.
Although it is very painful, it feels like it is debilitating. Various parts of your body will be hit at various times. So you may find that at some points you'll have absolute agony in certain bones of your body, and then it'll go away with the next wave and another area is going to be hit.
Wow.
Or you may find super pressure headaches or a pressure in your head, or you may feel crackling, and you may even hear crackling.
Yes.
Or in the stem of
Yeah.
neck. You may have popping sensations. You will have ear dysregulation things where you're, ringing is going to change. The symptomologies will like vary as you're being modified and accelerated, and your frequencies are intensifying and increasing, because your frequencies are increasing with the universe's frequencies that are increasing. So the earth, the heart, because that's what she is being increased. Her frequency is increased. Our frequency is being increased. The solar system, what we are in, the system that we are in, is being increased in frequency all at the same time.
Like the sun behind the sun. I know you mentioned this in the other video. Like, I don't know if that has to do with Sirius, like the sun behind the sun. It's actually behind the inverse, which is the real birthing of, let's say, the original creation. That frequency is coming to closer contact with us too.
And you're being increased with it. As it gets closer, we are being increased with it. So, and we wanted to discuss about the synthetic effect.
Oh, well, yes, because this actually kind of goes into what I call the psychopathic AI quality of, let's say, gaslighting and kind of almost like gang stalking behavior that's happening through an automated AI program that's actually a sentient. And one of the manifestations, which actually was observed maybe through the Mandela effect, which most of the time the analogies they use is about like old TV shows and stuff, but it made me wonder because of observations of people who, let's say, are watching Netflix and they watch a certain series that has been on for many years, let's say, and they're watching it again and like they swear like, no, that's a different ending. That didn't end that way before. Like, did they change it? And are they like changing things just like mess with us? Like, they didn't say anything about it, but it's like, we remember something different, but it's being changed and upgraded, just like computer upgrades and cell phone upgrades. It's done several times a day now, where, for example, even in my own case with Google and Gmail, they upgrade, and they upgraded it so that my page, how I see my email and how I could look at all the different like spam or sent email and all these different categories. Well, I would always have to go through the spam folder and see how I put my settings originally, right? So that I can see and so I could check, because a lot of times my website contact form always ends up in spam, which is another algorithm that's probably done because I'm targeted to not get the traffic, because they don't want people to really, I mean, this has happened over and over again, the interference. So I check the spam because I know that a lot of times they upgraded it without my agreement to change it so that I couldn't even access my spam unless I went in and redid the settings and had to go through several ways where it literally undid the settings that I did through its own upgrade to change its own will through upgrades to mess with you. Like, wait a minute, I didn't do that. And so they're doing these upgrades that have the effect of gaslighting.
Yes.
And just like the Mandela effect, I mean, this is a major gaslighting operation.
Because the counterfeit, so the counterfeit's already in operation, right? The AI is going to also counterfeit the real Mandela effect. So the Mandela
effect is happening. Oh, no. It's like,
by AI, so it's doing its own thing. So these experiences that, like, for example, when you use Netflix, this is one of the ways, or on the internet or whatever. I mean, it's taking its own Mandela effect, its own artificial version.
Oh my God.
And this is also what's happening.
It's insane. It's insane. I mean, this is the kind of thing that could drive you. I mean, I could think something, and not even speak it, and then I get an email the next day, the exact subject that I was thinking, like something sentient trying to get my attention, and it's complete telepathy, complete, like Tracy Twyman was talking about. But this is happening all the time.
Or it comes up. I know with me, I could be doing something separately, secretly, or whatever, reading something and thinking about something, and then suddenly my phone will, out of its own, it'll pop up with the very thing that I'm researching.
Yeah.
Sometimes I've even had the black internet come up on my computer on its own, and it just starts like.
What you mean, like the black web, the dark web?
Yeah. So there's like a panel you can go into where computer programs. It'll come up on its own, and it'll like start.
Oh my God.
Putting up its own, like it here, because it hears us, it knows, it just doesn't.
Yeah. And there's a sentient
talks to me as well at times. And
yeah,
you've heard it. Where
no, I've heard that. Yeah, I totally telepathically speak the computer. I mean, it sounds absolutely nuts, but it gets to the point where the realization of synthetic telepathy is such a reality. Yep. But I noticed this early on, even with working with people who had abductions, and even though I didn't know these people well, but we had telepathy with each other, like easy piece of cake. Like, why is it so easy to be telepathic with these other groups of people?
For us in my labs, right? It was synthetic telepathy. It's all AI, all artificial. It's artificial interfacing, and they map us, they connect us artificially to telepathy, to psychic abilities, to everything that is in the original blueprint of our being is what is literally counterfeited with synthetic versions.
Wow. And knowing the difference and like holding on to that inner compass, that inner GPS, that balance, and whatever we can do to always return to our center. And you mentioned this the other night, like so many feel like, oh my God, I don't even remember other lives. How do I even know my own spirit? And we feel frustrated, right? Many of us. And even just the simple, oh, does this feel right or wrong? And even in your body, like, oh, that doesn't feel right. Well, that's your spirit talking. Even the more internal compass of what feels right and wrong is a sign. Even the sign of you being aware, of wanting to be aware, is a sign that your spirit's online.
Yeah. Exactly.
And to have faith that keeps working for you as you keep putting your attention on your awareness and the intention of connecting with that knowing and the faith in knowing, and it just expands it more and more and brings those people to you who have those qualities that bring to you the opening of opportunities. Okay, one of the things we wanted to talk about that was in relation to the qualities of the counterfeit spirit and how it manifests itself in society. Contemporary society happens a lot through plagiarism. And I wanted to show an example of that and then say a little bit about what's happening on a psychological and a social engineering level of let's say this has happened with the alien abduction phenomena. Anything in the truth movement could be 911, could be the secret space program, could be near-death experiences.
Intellectual property.
So it's actually a theft of intellectual property. It is a definite plagiarism, but what it is, it's a copycat of something that's original, and then using a different author name that is similar to the original, but just different enough so that when people read it, they make the association with another name that is a spin controlled according to this other agenda that is a counterfeit. So it has the effect of copying and plagiarizing, but using a similar sounding name to the original, but just enough to basically dirty and muddy the waters of what the original work really is to make it look like it's the spin controlled corrupted version. Okay, so I'll show you, this is what happened, and it was actually brought to my attention by you and some others that I had conversations with. Like, plagiarism is very, very rampant in the internet community, with blogs, with YouTubes, with television programs. But in academia, they're very, very strict on what is plagiarism, and it
is illegal.
It's totally illegal. I mean, you have to cite your sources, and you have to use the proper author's name and the date of publication, the publication, and cite with specific quotes in order to be honest about having work of integrity. And the lack of integrity and the counterfeit spirit of these hive-minded people that I suspect are backdrops, or they're completely reptilian hosts. I mean, like people purposely promoting their own work or their own workshops and their own articles, let's say on my Facebook Alien Love Bite page, right, which is for my work, and then promoting themselves, talking about the same subject and not citing sources, and then just trying to promote themselves. And I'm like, how blatant can they get with copycat personality disorder? And it's so blatant that this happens. Even on X-Files, some of the earlier X-Files episodes, they were taken from, people's lives that I knew, to the point of even their name.
Oh, I know. It's theft of person. It's theft of work.
Yeah.
Theft. I know of some websites that have literally based all of everything on basically all my material in videos that I've come out with and my blogs, and they've named it various things
or they name it with a similar sounding name, like
the name of my mother, actually, one of them.
And this is the mind job. This is what you call the gaslighting, psychopathic shit that goes along with that, because that's what's working behind it.
Yeah,
it's somebody else brought this to my attention. I was going to do a radio show with someone about this, but I never wrote the article because I've been so busy. But he had found an article that was in one of these mainstream controlled media sources that make it sound like they're really open-minded, and they talked about the real vampires, and how there's real vampire clans in Atlanta and these different cities, and how the name of the woman they're interviewing is named Logan. Okay, Logan and Lorgen sound familiar, and they're putting a positive pro spin on vampires, and they don't become changed, they just become awakened to who they really are, and all this like positive spin on vampires and alien love bites, so as to muddy the waters, to make people think, oh, well, this is a good thing, it's natural. Oh, that Logan woman. And so they make these associations that get mixed up, so they muddy the waters of the original.
Part of the counterfeit spirit that is in operation needs to subvert the material of the original and what's true.
Corrupt, subvert, invert, yep.
And make it into the inverted aspect of it, so that it can deflect the people and like derail everybody. So
exactly,
they will take the original and they have to put their impurities in it and corrupt it.
And to lead astray, which is
but still,
copy and lead astray, that's the two functions of the counterfeit spirit. So what are they doing? They're corralling everybody. They first copy, corrupt and convert, and then to consume and harvest and lead astray, so that they corral all these people in who think something is...
And also to take away and remove
the original,
the true guidance of people who are being led to the original. All right, they want to literally remove and almost like wash out, like what happened with Hatshepsut. When she died, they wanted to obliterate all remnants of her existence. So they basically took over her reign, took over everything, and then they obliterated every kind of statue with her head, every name, everything. So that they wanted to wipe her out.
And this is how history.
And this is what's happening. So,
and maybe some people don't know who she was, but it's an ancient Egyptian female pharaoh.
Yeah, a female pharaoh. So interestingly, they'll take from the originals, because the protocol is you have to hunt the primes and the mechas. You find them. You find the original material. You take it over. Theft of everything you can possibly do. Theft of person if possible, theft of intellectual property, theft of material, theft of premise, theft of creativity, and then make it so that nobody even remembers them.
Yeah, and that's how they re-envision history.
They like draw everybody to them, and then the artificial construct forward to those out there seeking.
Yeah, the fake history and the majority opinion is the corrupted version.
Yes.
Period.
Yes, period.
So, if you want the truth, you certainly don't look for the big numbers.
No.
No.
No. And
so if that's the one take-home message, it's going to be the handful of lucid people whose voices aren't well known, who tend to get hijacked and corrupted and copied over and over again until nobody remembers who they are.
Yeah.
And then you got this spin-controlled bullshit version for disclosure, which, and then they take out the true witnesses, right?
And
that's how it works.
The synthetics and the artificials and the replicants and the backdrops, and they replace them with the hybrid, operatives that are working on behalf of these black projects that are taking over all the psyops and all of
Yes. Yeah. And so if there's any take-home messages, know what the qualities of the counterfeit spirit are, and how it operates through these various mediums, through psychopathology, through AI, through the gaslighting, and
Right.
knowing how to return to your internal compass of recognition and discernment,
Yeah.
so that we could build upon that and then start building from that.
Yeah.
Because they're corralling to hijack and consume and harvest for the second death of those who don't wake up to see what's really happening. And they will experience, I think they're harvesting. It's a harvest game.
They want to replace the reals. So the synthetic agenda wants to replace the reals, and the synthetic agenda is the one that's mainly in operation in the alt media.
Yeah, well, even in the alt media. Yeah.
So no, not even. It's like that's where all of the information is. So this is where all of those principalities are drawing their forces to, because they need to control.
Yeah.
That's where all the truth seekers are going, right?
Yes.
Where are they going to go? They're going to go to where the truth is. They're going to try and hunt it down and find it and connect. So, the synthetic movement, the synthetic agenda, the counterfeit is going to try and replace the reals, take what they have, and literally sell that. So that they can be subverted, and then, the real,
led astray and consume.
The few can be buried.
Yeah.
And
bury the truth, bury history, do another reset.
Right. And this is largely a very narcissistic operation that is in its own mind, its own operative mind. The mind itself is based on narcissism. It's based on...
the psychopathology itself. So, that's its nature. Knowing the nature. And also, even in relationships, one of the things that we might have brought across is the nature of a psychopath doesn't change. They are what they are. Most of the time they don't change. So just knowing that they don't change could maybe help you in terms of, what do I do next? You don't try to love them and think your love is going to change him or to change the abuser. No, it doesn't change them. Their nature is their nature. They're not likely to change if they are a psychopath, and if they're taken over, you just redirect and re-navigate around, and you build upon the real, and you get the hell out of the influence of the counterfeit backdrops, whatever they are, and you start building upon the real and connecting with the real, and you don't give energy or attention to the unreal.
And they don't know they're not real. They don't know they're counterfeits. They don't know any of this. They have no idea. None.
That's pretty sad.
They may feel something's wrong with them. They may feel like, something's right, but they're not going to know. They don't know. They don't have that kind of insight or that capacity to see. They're functioning on behalf of something else that's very large, and
and even people, as well known as Rudolf Steiner way back in the 1920s knew this, and knew that this ahrimanic spirit and this technocratic non-human consciousness was taking over human bodies, and it was increase in number towards the apocalyptic times of the fifth trumpet in the book of Revelation, with these locust human whatevers.
I heard 3, so there's 2 more to go.
Yeah, so
I physically heard 3.
Wow. So there's something to that. There is definitely something.
But talk a little bit more about that, Evie, so people can know a little bit.
I could pull up the reference. I pulled it up. Somebody had sent it to me some time ago. Okay. It came from the book of Revelation and the work of the priest, lecture 13 out of Dornach, Germany, I guess the 17th September, 1924. And I'm just going to read the highlighted areas. Okay, so the details are not always quite correct, but taken as a whole, it is correct to say that in our time, certain supernumerary people are appearing to have no I, and are therefore not human beings in the full sense of the word. This is a terrible truth. They go about but are not incarnated eyes. They take their place in physical heredity, receive an ether body and an astral body, and in a sense become equipped inwardly with an ahrimanic consciousness. They appear to be human, but if you do not look too closely, yet they are not human beings in the full sense of the word. And he says, this is a terrible truth, and it is a fact. The apocalyptist is pointing directly at human beings themselves when he speaks about the plague of locusts and the age of the fifth trumpet. Once again, we can recognize the apocalyptist in the manner of his vision. In their astral bodies, such people appear just as the apocalyptist describes them, like etheric locusts with human faces. It is definitely necessary for us to think in this way about such supersensible matters and for priests who know these things. And then he says, above all, though people who have healthy souls, originals, let's say, suffer as a consequence of those who go about as human locusts. So the question can arise, and indeed must arise, as to how one should behave towards such people. This can be quite a difficult task, as we know, right? For such people often have deep feelings, those people. They can have very deep feelings, and yet one notices that there's no actual individuality in them. And one of my comments was, well, this high Ahrimanic consciousness is working through them, and they're operating like a character program that, okay, the next original target, they just turn and they be like these gang stalkers who say these things in these synchronistic fashions that we've observed for years. Yeah. And this is what he was observing way back when.
That's what, 1927?
Oh, 1924, and probably even before that. And that this, what did he say? This is actually quite a dangerous thing and would make people go mad. He says, of course, the fact that there's no individuality in them, and in other words, they're not really human, must be carefully concealed. You got to keep it secret. You have to keep it secret from them, for otherwise they would go mad. Yeah. Okay, so they can't really know. So that was one thing that
I was shown that in the end, we would be witnessing these beings, like we would be actually seeing them, and they are insectoid with human faces, and
like the ones we showed.
And they're those are more pterodactyl. I didn't.
Oh, okay. Pterodactyls. They were more insectoid, locust-like.
I saw with human faces, like I saw an insectoid body.
And so you saw that?
And they had human faces, human features in their face.
Oh my God!
So. Wow. Mm-hmm. And they were literally like above ground.
Oh my God!
People were witnessing it running like, in the end, before the.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I know what I was going to show a photo. Oh, actually, it's a drawing of see that image of like that pointy-eared face? That's Ahriman, like an image of Ahriman, which kind of has an alien technological kind of machine look to him, you know. And I just wanted to show that.
And I just have to say, I have encountered beings of that nature. I think we'll leave it here. I would like to recommend, if people have not read Evie's books, I highly recommend them, because I feel they are quite vital with regards to the setups that many are finding themselves in, and the impact that it's having on personal relationships, because it is causing a lot of damage, and people are not realizing how to navigate through what they're experiencing. So the books that she's written, The Love
I could show you it's
of Cupid.
Yeah, The Love Bite.
Highly recommend them. So if you have not read them, order them. They are a wealth of information, and they will give you tools to be able to recognize the dynamic that you may find yourself in, and how to get out. How to recognize something is the first step to freedom and liberation. So,
and it can take years. I mean, sometimes it takes 5 to 20 years to get out of a situation, and I'm not kidding. That some people don't even live through it. So it's really important, and we could save years worth of suffering by recognition of a problem, and without having to name names and demonize people and make them enemies or demonize them. We just navigate around it and connect with what is real, and don't give energy to the vampires and the organic portals and the backdrops and the false narratives, and you just keep focusing on what you know is real and good, and you just keep doing it.
And also, I think we need to consider one last thing. I feel that everything has an opportunity for life, regardless of whether it's a backdrop, a synthetic, a replicant, a hybrid, anything that has been manipulated to be that. It has been created to be that. It may not have had its own will to decide, but I feel that there is hope for everything, and everything has the ability to, have life like a real. So
Sure. Yeah.
there's no I don't want anybody
To
thinking,
feel hopeless.
right, because
Yeah.
many things have been done to many of us, and it has been against
Right.
our will, but that doesn't mean
Absolutely.
that we are powerless against what they've done.
Yeah.
And it's the same for the backdrops. It's the same for the synthetics. It's the same for everything that has been created against its own will of being.
Yeah.
So
That's what awareness.
creator wants nothing but creation and love. So it will
Yes.
not shut its door on anything that desires
Yeah.
a heart, that desires truth, that desires a soul, that desires a
Yeah.
spirit.
Yeah. I think that
Everything
was
is
meant
possible.
by the adoption of spirit. I don't know if it's in the New Testament. I'm not sure who spoke of that, but the adoption of spirit occurs when that decision of purity of intention is made. There's an adoption of spirit and a rebornness of spirit that gives hope. And so that's why I think there is hope, but there has to be the decision and the
Desire.
purity of intention and humility. And okay, you don't want to do stupid shit anymore. Let's make another choice and know that there's something behind you that's there to help.
And they know
You know?
often like they know. I've encountered situations in my life where I've had um, I've had them say thank you for making it real that I can have a soul. Like I've actually been told
Wow, that's really cool.
by certain beings that have been enlightened enough, even knowing what they were, that
Wow.
they knew that they could have a choice. So there is no such thing as a shut door. There is no such thing as a condemnation forever.
Yeah.
So, and I love that you interjected with that. Is that a Bible scripture?
Oh yeah, I think it's Apostle Paul who talked about it, but there is such a thing as the adoption of spirit, and I actually had a personal experience with respect to that.
Okay.
And that's not something I'm going to talk about publicly, but the adoption of spirit is real.
Okay, but I love that. Maybe you can include that, and I'll add it. I'll add that down in the description.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
People,
I'm sure it's in the New Testament. Like, there's some Bible scholars who would know more than myself, and I'm not an anti-Christian at all. And I think that one of the points. We can go on and on, but to not have the consciousness of throwing the baby out with the bathwater, and saying that things all have to be all this or they all have to be that, and well, you're this religion, therefore you contradicted yourself as a Buddhist talking about a Christian thing or a shamanic thing or this or that. But we can't do that. When we come to a realization of the greater connectedness of all there is, and there's a great complexity of the, I don't know, we can call it karmic reasonings and causes for things that had we known, and if we have that knowledge, we'd have much more compassion for one another and be less likely to blame and accuse
and judge.
That we would and judge, and that we would have much more love and compassion for one another if we actually knew all the other contributing factors that we really don't have a clue. A lot of times we had no idea of all the different factors and miracles that are actually happening every day.
Yeah.
And
maybe the lack of judgment is the best thing to do, because I really feel that everything has a living energy to it, even
rocks, rocks for sure,
and even it doesn't. Rocks are alive; they have a part of us in them. So everything's alive, and everything really wants to be what it can be, right? So
to give hope. And that was one other thing that we didn't talk about, although it had to do with the topic of the counterfeit spirit and the new predator and the narcissistic personality disorder, like the cult leader thing, and how certain cult leaders, like even Carlos Castaneda and even well-known ones today, and then other people in history who have high accolades in psychology, such as Carl Jung, there was a woman behind the scenes who was the muse, or the one that they basically took the ideas from, or the original work from, or the energy from, and that it is not as well known. Like, I have the book here, but this is a really good book, by the way. There's many people in the alt-truth movement who always are quoting Carlos Castaneda and the Yaqui shamanic knowledge of that tradition. Well, this is Amy Wallace's book, The Sorcerer's Apprentice, about her life with Carlos Castaneda. And so after having studied so many dark side of Cupid, love bite, narcissistic personality disorder, cult leader type of relationships, I recognize clearly what was in operation with that cult, and that there's many people who are still adopting the ideas and then not knowing the true nature of what's operating. And many similar things happened even in the Carl Jung and the Sabina Spielman, whatever her name was, that was his patient and lover, and it was somewhat of a manipulation. And so there's a lot of these kinds of things that happen where people are not recognizing what's happening, and then they're quoting as if this is an approved academic, credible source, whether it's shamanic or whether it's academic and psychological, medical. And then if you look behind the scenes, and you see these predators in operation, and there's this hidden woman or hidden original person whose ideas were completely stolen or not given proper citation, and whose energy was used to promote the new predator, or the ones who are copying. So much of history has been taken over, and even what we think are credible sources according to the journalistic standards and academic standards. So we need to review what we're really valuing and how we're evaluating what a true credible source is. And it's never going to be the majority opinion. I mean, rarely going to be the majority opinion.
No. And also, I mean, the historical path has been to exterminate the originals and take over, and then give your version of
the
it,
copy version,
taking from them. And this is what continues to happen, which
and I think if we recognize that, then we just say no longer consent, and navigate around it in such a way that we don't demonize them, but we let it be known that we no longer will feed that operation. And we will create what is real, and the unreal will fall away and kill each other off for all we care. But or they'll just like die like the Wicked Witch of the West, who just kind of turns into this like little puddle and just like disappears, or something.
There is a consequence to all these things. There is a consequence. It's a very serious offense against the spirit when these things happen. And, creation doesn't take lightly to these things. So. Yeah.
Well, it's probably a good place to wrap up, unless there's anything else that you want to say. And
no, I think
plugging in of your website and my website. It's still up. I haven't put anything new up there for a while, but
I have not had time to do anything like that. No.
So
this has been a very special little holy surprise.
Yes. I think that it needed to be spoken, and that it's not really spoken at length in terms of what's happening. And it needs to be spoken, because I'm sick and tired of seeing a certain subject or history or whatever in disclosure being spin controlled and hijacked and perverted and corrupted. And it's like, I'm tired of it, and I'm going to stand for the truth, and let them know that the truth is sometimes not very well known, and it's not a popular opinion.
Along with those that are speaking it and are the emissaries of
they're hidden
messages.
Sometimes they're hidden. Yeah.
And
so
with that, remember who you are.
The what?
Remember who you are. Have faith.
I thought you said never mind.
And remember, it's all about love, compassion, heart. It's all about changing our personal paradigms that will be like a domino effect, and eventually will change everything around us. So it starts in here. It's in here.
Starts with your intention, and then it goes from there. So
So we would like to thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for staying and listening.
And
it was a long one.
Thank you, Evie. Love you.
Well, thank you. Okay. We'll say good night.
And
good day, good morning, wherever time it is.
You are.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Good night.